Hello, everybody. I'm going to read you this book that I got on eBay because it's neat, from 1983. Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Storybook, The Forest of Enchantment. I haven't read it myself yet, so we'll be reading it at the same time. There'll probably be some weird noises and stuff in the background since there are people here walking around, but I'm going to read it anyway. Here we go. The Forest of Enchantment. Here we go. A soft breeze whispered through the tall trees, and birds trilled overhead. Caruso, the bard, that's a good name for a bard, made his way through the forest. He walked slowly, enjoying the beauty, the forest fragrances, and the peace and quiet. The forest is truly an enchanted place, he said to himself. Ooh, look at that face. But Caruso's pleasant thoughts were suddenly interrupted. The rustling of the trees was drowned out by the rumble of footsteps. The rumble became a roar. "Who dares to invade the peace of the forest?" the bard cried. I'm not sure that was a good voice for the bard. Well, I'll try again next time. He didn't have to wait long for an answer to his question. Turning toward the sound, his face froze in terror as he faced... Oh, what is it going to be? What's it going to be? Lizard men! An army of lizard men. "What evil magic is this?" Ooh, that's better, Caruso cried. He turned to run, but the hideous soldiers had surrounded him. They quickly moved in for the kill. Caruso carried no weapons this day, but he had his lute. Caruso's music has magic in it. When he plays, everything, even the enemy, stops to listen. Caruso raised the instrument to his shoulder and played. The music floated into the air. And the lizard men stopped to listen, entranced by Caruso's music. The charm worked, Caruso thought. See, he even thinks in that voice. But now I must flee the forest quickly. The spell will last only a minute, and the evil army will spring back to life and attack again. Caruso kept playing his lute as he quickly made his way through the forest and away from the lizard men. He listened for footsteps, but the lizard men did not follow. Oh my. At the edge of the forest, Caruso found the beautiful druid, Fillory. "Caruso, you look as if you have seen a ghost," Fillory said. "Worse," Caruso cried, catching his breath. He told her of the army of lizard men and their attack. "Who has summoned this monstrous army?" he asked her. "And what evil plans have they brought to the forest?" "I do not know," Fillory told him, "but there is one who knows all that happens in this kingdom, both good and evil. I will go to him for answers to our questions." "Hide yourself, Caruso," she said. "I shall return again by nightfall." Fillory used her magic and turned herself into an eagle and flew off into the sun. Well, that just seems dangerous and irresponsible. Here we go. Her destination was the Thieves' Guild Hall, where she knew she could find the good thief Figgin. Fillory flew in through the window and circled the great hall until she spotted Figgin. "I believe I have seen this beautiful eagle before," Figgin said, a wide grin creasing his wily face. "Change form, madam, that we may converse." Fillory quickly returned to human form and sat close to Figgin. "I have come because I know you have information I seek," she said. "Figgin, can you tell me why an army of lizard men has invaded our forest?" I can even tell you why a caterpillar chooses one leaf and not another," the thief replied. "For I know all that happens in the forest and outside it. The lizard men are in the hire of none other than Warduke." Ooh, I knew Warduke from the cartoons when I was a little kid. Anyway, "Warduke!" cried Fillory. "And what evil plan has brought him to the woods? He's only interested in conquest and treasure." "The Princess Mira crosses through the forest tomorrow morning," Figgin said. Oh, He whispered so that other thieves could not hear. "She carries the ruby of the 7 suns. Warduke plans to kidnap the princess and take the ruby for himself." Figgin's voice kind of hurts my throat. "I knew you could answer my questions," Fillory said happily. "If I don't know it, it hasn't happened," the old thief boasted and turned back to his friends. "Wait, one more thing," Figgin called, following her outside. Kellock, the evil sorcerer, has brought his dark magic to the forest. He, too, is in the employ of Warduke. Warduke, with his army of Kellock, with his magic. Oh, no, forget I said that. Warduke with his army and Kellock with his magic. That makes for powerful foes, Fillory exclaimed, the worry showing in her beautiful face. You could tell she was beautiful just from my voice that I'm using. The sun was setting behind the trees. Fillory turned into a deer and leapt out into the forest. Running through the woods, her mind whirred with thoughts of Warduke, Kellock, and their evil army and evil plans. They must be stopped, they must, she told herself. With a ruby of that value, Warduke could buy an army that no one could stop. He could soon rule the kingdom. The Princess Mira and her precious ruby must pass through the forest safely. Caruso and I will see to that.
What am I hearing back here?
See, capitalism is still big even in the fantasy world and in 1983. Fillory had no way of knowing that Caruso had his own problems at that moment. Hearing the rustle of dried leaves on the forest floor, Caruso stepped out from behind the thick scrub where he had been hiding. "Fillory!" he cried. He stared into the evil face of Warduke and Kellock. Look at that. Look at those evil faces. Yikes. That's evil. "Ha ha! So this is the worm that has been crawling around the forest," Warduke cried, his face twisted into an evil sneer. "I'm sorry, Bard, but we have no choice but to stamp you out." Caruso raised his lute to his shoulder and began to play the notes that would stop his foes. Oh, this is tense. But the notes never came. The evil sorcerer Kellock was too quick for Caruso. He cast a spell that froze Caruso to the spot. Caruso couldn't move. He couldn't play the lute. He could not sing. "He is helpless. Take him prisoner," Warduke commanded. "Why not kill him?" Kellock argued. "The effects of the spell will soon wear off. We have no time for prisoners. The princess comes through the forest at sunup." "Did you hear him call out for Fillory?" Warduke asked. "He expects the druid. We will keep him alive to draw her to us. When she appears, we will kill them both." Caruso was gagged, and his arms and legs were bound. He was dragged to Warduke's camp. There, Foxfingers, the evil thief, was ordered to guard him. This is intense. Later, the spell began to wear off. "Where is Fillory?" Caruso thought. He struggled to work the gag down off his mouth, that he could sing out a spell. He kept his head down low so that Foxfingers couldn't see his efforts. "Will they capture Fillory too?" Caruso wondered. "Why doesn't she return?" He didn't notice the deer standing by a nearby tree, a deer that was staring at him intently. "I can't help Caruso now," Fillory told herself. "If I show myself, I'll be captured too." She decided to wait until sunup, so Fillory cast a magic spell and turned herself into a tree. There, unnoticed, she watched over Caruso and his captors through the long night. Foxfingers proved a better thief than a guard. He fell asleep while the moon was still high in the sky. This gave Caruso the chance to work on the gag that covered his mouth. He struggled for hours, rubbing his head against the ground, until at last his mouth was freed. Caruso knew well the song a bard can sing to charm an enemy into feeling friendly. Just as the morning sun began to peek through the forest trees, Foxfinger awoke, and he was greeted by Caruso's magical melody. The song made Foxfingers feel warm in friendship toward Caruso. "Let me go, quickly," Caruso ordered. The thief obliged. Caruso jumped to his feet. He looked around the camp for a place to hide, but there was no need to hide. Warduke and his henchmen had other matters on their minds. A horseman came riding up to the camp. "The princess and her party have entered the forest," he cried. "And how big is her protective force?" Warduke asked, strapping on his broadsword. "Only 6 men," the horseman informed him. "An army of 6 to protect the ruby of the 7 sons?" Warduke cried in astonishment. "Ha ha! We have won even before we even begin." Warduke's tough on the voice, too. Meanwhile, unaware of the dangers that awaited her, the Princess Mira teased her handmaiden Bess inside the carriage that carried them deeper into the forest. The princess held the ruby of the 7 sons in her small hand. "Go ahead, Bess," she urged. "Hold it." The young serving girl was too nervous to hold the priceless gem. She dropped it onto the floor of the carriage. The 2 young women scrambled around on the floor for it. "What's wrong with you, Bess? Don't be so uneasy," Princess Mira scolded. "But, Princess, I beg of you," Bess protested. "Return the jewel to its case. It is not a plaything brave warriors have killed to keep possession of the ruby. They did not fight so you could use it as a toy." "Bess, it is not your place to scold me." "Thanks, Karen," the princess protested. "It is my jewel, after all, and what could possibly happen here in the wilderness?" "Check your privilege, Mira." Anyway, not far away, Warduke's campground emptied as his men prepared to attack. I don't remember Kellock's voice anymore. I'm going to have to make it up. "The princess will be here in moments," Kellock cried. "And just as quickly the jewel will be mine," Warduke said gleefully. "Prepare to attack! The one to bring me the ruby will receive a special reward," Warduke called to his soldiers. But Warduke's plans were interrupted. I don't believe Warduke. I don't think that he's going to give any kind of reward. Anyway. For the tree that stood a few yards from Warduke began to change shape until it became the shape of Fillory. "Fillory! There you are!" cried Caruso, running out to greet her. "Yes, I am here," Fillory said, tossing back her head defiantly. "I am here to stop you, Warduke." Warduke got over his surprise quickly. "You will not interfere with my plans," he cried angrily. "You and your bond companion will watch my triumph. It will be the last thing you will ever see," the evil warrior called to Kellock. "Quick, a spell! Do not let this foolish druid act!" Caruso and Fillory took a step back as Kellock came forward. Oh, man. But Fillory acted first. "Stand back!" she cried to Caruso. There's a lot of crying. They're always crying. Anyway. Kellock raised his arms to begin a spell, but he was too late. Fillory cast a plant growth spell. Weeds sprouted from the ground. Bushes flowered and bulged. Trees began to grow, and grow, and grow. As she and Caruso watched, the forest grew before their eyes. Thicker and taller the forest became until it trapped and tangled Warduke and all his men. They were imprisoned by the trees. All were trapped by the weeds and tall shrubs, which continued to grow until the evildoers nearly disappeared from view. Here's that whole picture. It's kind of neat. "We must get out!" Warduke cried, hacking away at the trees that imprisoned him, his sword not making a dent as he swung it again and again. All around him his soldiers struggled to free themselves from the twisted, tangled forest prison that had grown in seconds. The terrified cries of the soldiers drowned out Warduke's calls to action. Fillory's forest held them all as tightly as a cage. "What is that up ahead?" Princess Mira called, looking out her carriage window. She called to her driver to stop. "The forest seems impenetrable in that spot, Your Highness," the driver called down. "Well, go around it then," the princess ordered. "I've never seen a forest grow so thick and dark." I don't like this princess. I hope she gets it. Kind of rooting for Warduke at this point. The carriage turned and headed off to the west. Soon it would find the path again. Soon it would carry the princess and her prized jewel to their destination. "Quite an exciting trip, Bess," Mira asked with a yawn. She received no reply. Bess had fallen asleep. I don't like those two. "Ha ha! It will take them days to hack their way out," Caruso laughed. "Kellic will soon get over his shock and realize that he can dispel magic even though he is trapped in the trees," Fillory warned. "So we cannot spend any more time enjoying our victory. We must flee." With the angry, frightened cries of Warduke and his men in their ears, Fillory bade Caruso farewell and walked up to an oak tree and stepped inside. That's a cool power. Caruso took Fillory's advice and ran quickly to the other side of the forest, many miles away. There all was quiet. A soft breeze rustled the leaves overhead, and a chickadee chirped its sweet song. Caruso walked deeper into the trees, enjoying the warm air and soft fragrances. "The forest is truly an enchanted place," he told himself, and he disappeared between two ancient knotted oak trees. Look at the size of that butterfly. Those mushrooms, too. Look good. Ooh, there's that dude. Okay, this has been Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Storybook, Forest of Enchantment. Bye.